If you're wedding planning on a budget, like I'm sure most of you are, here are hidden fees to look out for and not be caught off guard when you are planning your wedding. Hey there, my wedding planning friends, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for clicking on my video. I'm Emily Summer. I'm a wedding planner based in Montana, and I make weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice. So, like I mentioned, today we are talking about wedding budgeting, planning on a budget, as most of you planning a wedding are likely trying to do it under a certain budget. And if you've never planned a wedding before, there's probably a lot of costs that you don't even know exists, and I don't want you to be hit with any hidden fees. So here are the most commonly somewhat hidden or just forgotten about fees to make sure that you're budgeting for and know what to expect when planning your wedding. When you begin the wedding planning process, you might know an idea of particular price ranges for a lot of the heavy hitters and a lot of your main vendors. But you want to make sure that you are diving a little bit deeper before signing any contracts or making any decisions when it comes to booking all of your vendors and sending invoices and confirming rental orders and all of those things. So here are some costs to make sure that you are accounting for so that you aren't going over your budget. Number one are delivery and installation fees. I think this is becoming more and more expected, so it's a little less of a surprise cost, but just know that this goes for pretty much any vendor, and this will vary depending on where your actual wedding venue is and the location that you're getting married, but try and source vendors that are going to be very close to wherever you're getting married, because anybody within, everyone has, different parameters for this, but outside of a certain mileage range, most vendors will add on an additional travel fee. So a delivery fee is pretty much always added for any vendor that is going to deliver anything that's not included in their service. So if you are having a wedding cake, your florist, your rentals, these will all be additional costs. So make sure that when you're getting your rental orders, you're getting your florist proposal, all of those things, that if that cost is not included and you are planning on having them be on site, deliver the items, deliver the flowers, do the installation, whatever it might be, that is all included in your initial invoice, so you know exactly what you're getting and what you're going to be paying for up front. This is also a good place to see where you can save money. So maybe you're planning on having some rental items delivered and you have a friend that has a big truck that you can fit everything in, and you can eliminate that delivery fee. There are also a lot of additional costs that can go into your catering. So if you are having a plated meal versus a buffet, you're going to be having more labor costs because it's going to require more servers. This also goes for family style. I think a lot of people think that they're saving money by going family style, but it essentially is just as much labor, sometimes even more. So make sure that you are understanding these costs, and when you're getting your quotes and your invoices from caterers, that everything that you are expecting is listed in there and that you are noting any extra labor costs, and you can see how that kind of affects your overall budget, especially for catering. Additionally, a cake cutting fee. This is one of those pretty hidden costs, I would say. I think most couples don't realize that if you have a cake that you're planning on cutting and serving to your guests, you can have your caterers do this, or sometimes your bakery will offer this service, but it will be an additional fee. And this is one of those fees that I do recommend paying for and having a professional do, so just make sure you're budgeting for that in the beginning, because cutting and serving a cake, especially when it's large and multiple tiers, is a lot more difficult than you expect it to be, and somebody has to do it, right? It's not going to be you, it's not going to be your wedding planner. Somebody needs to be able to cut and serve the cake to serve to your guests. Typically, this is most commonly, at least here, what I see is typically like per guest. So if you have a really large cake and a really high guest count, this fee is going to be higher. If you have a smaller guest count, this will be a little bit lower. So just know that your guest count will likely influence this cost. But I would say on average, this is mostly like a $200 to $250 additional fee. DJ costs. So hidden costs that can come with a DJ are travel. Like I mentioned earlier, this goes for pretty much any wedding vendor. But another additional cost that you might face is a moving fee. So if you are moving locations multiple times, most DJs, at least here, and most DJs that I work with, will include one move in their overall pricing. So what I mean by this is if you're having your ceremony in one location and your reception in another location, your DJ will need to have two separate setups so that they have sound system and microphone and speakers and everything set up for your ceremony, as well as all of those set up for your reception. So that's two separate locations, and the DJ will have to move items from one place to another. So if you are having a a wedding at a venue that your cocktail hour is in a completely different section, know that you will likely be charged for an additional move when it comes to your DJ or an additional setup for this, because you will need music and speakers wherever your cocktail hour will be, in addition to wherever your toasts and your like dinner music will be, and then maybe even another location for your reception. So keep that in mind as you're kind of setting up the layout for your wedding. Second shooters are another cost that can be somewhat hidden. Some photographers work in tandem always, like if it's a husband and wife team, you're paying for both of them, and many photographers will hire out for an additional second shooter. So if you are really wanting a second shooter, if you have in your mind that you will have two photographers, like especially for getting ready and for wedding party pictures, if you're having a photographer with you and your bridesmaids, and then you have another photographer with your partner and whoever they're with, that is not always included. And so make sure that as you're having these conversations with your photographer and saying that you want two photographers, know that that is going to be an additional cost, and make sure that you are not being surprised by that when you are getting your proposals and your invoices. Day of cost. So like getting ready, food and drink. This is something that is not necessarily a hidden cost, but definitely sometimes forgotten about. So sometimes this will be included in your venue. So if you're getting married at a place that has a restaurant on site or has these amenities that they can offer you for like snacks and beverages for whatever getting ready space you're having on that day, that will be added on into whatever proposal invoice you already have with them. If not, then this is an additional cost that you will need to provide and budget for. So typically you want some kind of snack, fruit, sandwiches, coffee, whatever while you're getting ready, as well as some beverages. This doesn't have to be alcoholic beverages, so you can cut costs there, but make sure you have something to drink while you're getting ready. Additionally, day of essentials like your emergency kit, so things you might need on the day of, Advil, sewing kit, stain remover, safety pins, tape, scissors, all those things in your wedding emergency kit. These are all day of essentials, and you want to make sure that you are accounting for that. I have a video all about your wedding day emergency kit if you want to go into more depth on what to have there. I also do have pre-made, ready to go mini emergency kits for you if you want just the essentials and not have to source everything yourself. I do have those made all together for you in a cute little pouch with room to add whatever else you might need on your wedding day. I'll include the details for that in the description below. Postage is another one. I've talked about this in a lot of other videos, but don't forget that when you are sending out your invitations and all of your stationery, that you have not only that stationery cost, but also the postage for those. So if you're sending out save the dates, if you're sending out formal invitations, and if you have like printed out RSVP cards that you're having your guests send back to you, you're paying for your entire guest count, your invite list for postage 3 separate times. So keep that in mind when you are making this budget. There are also sometimes sneaky upgrades. This is like on rental items specifically. Know that when you are chatting with rental companies and they're giving you suggestions on items, if it's a premium item or an upgrade on something, primarily like your linens, there's usually like a baseline for like a polyester blend linen, and then there's tiers that you can go up and have a little bit more luxury styles. Usually this is nicer fabrics, more patterns, more prints, different textures, that sort of thing. But obviously the price is going to vary. So just make sure that you are understanding when there's like a premium option and a standard option, and if you're really trying to save money, that you are communicating that you want your standard options. This also goes for your alcohol packages. There's typically different tiers, and so just having an open bar doesn't mean that you're providing every single type of alcohol and it's just you're paying for everything. There's different levels here, so you can still have an open bar and just have it be like a baseline package, and then there's ways that you can upgrade and have premium alcohols from here. So if you want an open bar but you don't want to be spending a ton of money, there's still ways you can do that without going overboard and spending thousands of dollars on your alcohol. So make sure that you're communicating that you want like a lower price range, but that you do want to provide the alcohol for your guests. There's typically like a standard baseline package and then premium options that offer more top shelf and premium liquors. Hair and makeup extra fees. So a trial is often an extra fee when you're booking your hair and makeup artist for bridal makeup. Typically this is included in the cost, but not always. So make sure that when you're getting your invoices, you see the trial on there and see that it's either included or it's an add-on, so you know any additional costs that you might have to pay for upon signing those contracts. Additionally, travel fees are common here, as well as if you have a large group that's going to be getting hair and makeup services, they might add on extra labor and extra artists to come provide the services to be able to make that more efficient. Sometimes there's extra surcharges for like a holiday, or if you have to start really early in the morning because you have a large group, there might be extra surcharges there too. Another common one is credit card processing fees. And this is one that can add up very quickly, especially when you're paying large amounts in large packages. Usually things are like over $1,000. And so your small percentage fee ends up being multiple hundreds of dollars. So be aware of any credit card processing fees from vendors if you are planning to pay with a credit card, or if they automatically are having you pay with a credit card. Know if the fees are included, or if you get a discount if you pay in cash, or if there's other forms of payment to eliminate that credit card processing fee. Vendor meals are another one I should have mentioned during catering as well. Pretty much any vendor that works like 6 hours or more on your wedding day will require a vendor meal. And typically this will be included in all of their contracts. In fact, it should be, so make sure you're looking out for that. But know that you will be required to serve your vendors for anyone that is there for the duration of your day. And this will just be added on to your head count for your catering meals. So make sure that you're accounting for that. And lastly is gratuities. I think this is something that's a pretty common topic, and as far as who you are giving gratuity to, it's pretty much all optional with the exception of your service-based vendors, like your catering, alcohol, food and alcohol is pretty much always included. And this is just where you need to know if it's included in your initial proposal and your initial invoice, so that it's built into your final cost, which is most common, but not always. So know that when you are getting your invoice, you're getting your proposal for whatever dollar amount your catering services is going to be, make sure that you're checking to see if the gratuity is already included, or if that's something that you need to make sure you are budgeting for, that you will pay on the day of your wedding. Same thing goes for alcohol. Most of the time these things are already included, but you want to make sure that you are double checking on that so that you know if there's additional costs that you have to budget for and save for on the wedding day. Any additional gratuity that you plan on giving to your vendors is really at your discretion. Typically hair and makeup is another one of those service-based vendors that do somewhat expect a tip. When you go and get your hair and makeup done or your nails done or anything like that, you're likely going to be leaving a tip anyway, so the same should be done on your wedding day. Anybody else, no one expects a tip. Obviously, it's greatly appreciated and it's always nice to get one. This is really at your discretion. So if you're having a really great experience with any of your vendors and you want to thank them, just make sure that you are budgeting for those additional gratuity charges in your overall wedding budget. Wedding planning on a budget can get tricky and things add up so quickly. I totally understand that. So make sure that you are budgeting for these things at the start so that you don't have any extra hidden costs that come up that make you go over budget. I have a ton of videos about budgeting for your wedding, so make sure you check out my playlist. I go into a lot more detail on more specifics of this if you're needing more assistance in budgeting for your wedding and planning a wedding on a smaller budget. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe to get weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice, and we'll see you next week.